Welcome, curious soul, to Tales of the Tattered Book. I am your host, the keeper of the book. With each passing moment, new horrors appear on these weathered pages, yearning to be told. As I open this arcane tome, remember, knowledge comes at a price, and some truths are better left unspoken. Tonight, we return to Mars Base Ares, where cosmic horrors stir in the void between worlds. Our tale, Whispers of the Void, continues as the crew confronts truths that no human mind was meant to comprehend. In this chapter, The Breaking Point, we witness the moment when these cosmic forces begin to claim their price. Draw close, dear listeners. The story begins.
15th September, 2052. Omicron Research Archival Facility, Cambridge, former Massachusetts, North American Zone. Preliminary Analysis Report, Ares Mission Incident Reconstruction. Overseen by Dr. Alexander Reeves, Chief Scientific Officer, Omicron. Classification, Omega Level Restricted. Total recovered materials: 47 neurorecorder units, 12 partial biological samples, 1 surviving crew members, Dr. Yuki Tanaka, medical officer. Forensic overview. The recovered neurorecorder fragments provide a critical window into the progressive systemic breakdown observed during the Ares expedition. Multiple convergent anomalies suggest a complex interconnected phenomenon that transcends conventional scientific understanding. Commencing playback of primary witness testimonials.
Entry 1. Partial entry, February 28, 2045. Lieutenant Sarah Cooper. Previous recording lost.
The command center is impressive, I'll give them that. 3 tiers of monitoring stations, and the holoscreen array shows every detail of our orbit. Commander Nazari was at her console when I arrived, reviewing something on her Neuralink display. She barely looked up when I gave her the orbital status report. Everything is within parameter, though the gravitational readings need some fine-tuning. The briefing after was interesting.
Cooper, I need someone I can trust up here. The South Pole mission is priority 1, and you're the most qualified to maintain orbital operations.
Didn't expect this level of responsibility so soon. Thought I'd at least have a few months to settle in before taking command. She's been staring at those classified files all day. Something about the mission parameters seems off, like there's more going on than a simple geological survey. But it's not my place to question. Just need to focus on keeping this station running smoothly while they're gone. Still, I can't believe I'm going to be in charge up here. Mum would be so proud. Her daughter, commanding humanity's first Mars orbital station. Well, technically commanding. Nazari's still calling the shots, but still, not bad for a girl from South City who used to stargaze from her backyard.
Entry 1. February 29, 2045. Technical Officer Michael Torres.
I had to fix 3 cryopods today. The release mechanisms got stuck somehow. Necron keeps telling me they're operating within normal parameters, but I'd like to see an AI try squeezing through these maintenance tunnels. And on top of that, half the access panels need manual resets because they won't sync properly with the system. Whoever designed this station clearly never had to repair it. And I know this fancy neurorecorder is catching every grumpy thought I have. Well, guess what, Omicron? Your state-of-the-art station is held together with duct tape and prayers, and your AI wouldn't know a stuck bearing from a hole in the ground. Maybe spend less on brain-spying tech and more on decent equipment next time. Better get back to work. These pods won't fix themselves, no matter what Necron thinks. And if anyone's listening to this recording, send better tools on the next supply run. These wrenches are from the last century, I swear.
Entry 2, March 2nd, 2045. Dr. Samira Patel.
Finally, I got the hydroponics bay organized how I want it. They gave us this massive space, 3 interconnected domes with separate atmospheric controls. Dome A for Earth normal cultivation, Dome B for Mars gravity adjustment experiments, and Dome C for the soil integration tests. I keep getting lost navigating between sections, though. This place is like a maze with identical corridors connecting everything. The quarters aren't so bad, cramped but better than what I had during training. I've managed to set up a small workspace where I can review my data. Not everyone got so lucky. Park, one of my junior assistants, got stuck next to the water recycling system. The constant humming keeps him up at night. Tomorrow's the big day. We'll start collecting our first Mars soil samples for testing. Real Martian soil. After years of simulations and theories, I'll finally get to see how Earth plants react to it. I keep checking my equipment, making sure everything's ready. I must have reviewed the collection protocols a dozen times already. But how often does someone get to be the first to grow plants in alien soil?
Entry 6, March 5th, 2045. Lieutenant Sarah Cooper.
First day of command preparation. Commander Nazari wants me to know every system, every protocol, before she heads to the surface. Spent the morning doing a full station walkthrough. Strange how different everything looks when you're responsible for it. Ares is bigger than it seems from the outside. The main hub is like a massive wheel, 6 spokes connecting to the central axis where the command center sits. Each spoke leads to a specialized section: medical and research in spoke 1, hydroponics and life support in 2, engineering and power in 3, crew quarters in 4, communications and navigation in 5, and cargo supply in 6. Still getting used to the artificial gravity differences between the rotating outer ring and the central hub. The docking bay in the central axis is impressive, can hold up to 3 shuttles at once. That's where Nazari's team will launch from when they head to the surface. The observation deck above it gives a perfect view of Mars, getting redder every day as our orbit stabilizes. Necron, keep sending me system updates. Latest one shows all green across the board, but I'm double-checking everything manually anyway. Can't be too careful when you're responsible for 40 people's lives. Torres might complain about the AI, but at least it's thorough. Tomorrow I need to review all emergency protocols. Commander Nazari mentioned something about special contingencies for the South Pole mission. Need to study those carefully.
Entry 2, March 8th, 2045. Chief Meteorologist Thomas Howard.
Finally got approval to launch our first atmospheric monitoring satellite. Minsat-1 may be small, but she's packed with every sensor we could fit in there. UV mapping, spectral analysis, particulate tracking, the works. Martinez thinks I'm obsessing over the launch trajectory, but this isn't Earth. One wrong calculation, and we lose our eyes in the sky. The Weather Monitoring Center is up and running, though calling it weather feels a bit generous right now. Dust storms, temperature variations, atmospheric pressure changes, basic stuff. The real work starts once Minsat-1 is in position. Gorgoff and Powell are running final checks on the transmission systems. If everything goes according to plan, we'll have our first complete atmospheric model by the end of the week.
Entry 6, March 11th, 2045. Medical Officer Lisa Lindsay.
Had our first patient in medical today. Nothing serious, thank God. Johnson from engineering got his hand caught in a malfunctioning door seal. Minor contusion, bit of swelling. Torres came by while I was treating Andrews, muttering something about shoddy manufacturing and corporate cost-cutting. He's not wrong, though. These door mechanisms are definitely not up to spec. Dr. Tanaka insists we document everything, no matter how minor. She's right, of course. We have no idea how the Martian environment might affect healing rates. Even a small injury could teach us something new. Still, I hope we don't get too many visitors to medical. The fewer injuries up here, the better.
Entry 17, March 15th, 2045. Chief Meteorologist Thomas Howard.
Minsat-1's first data stream contains radiation patterns I can't explain. The spectral analysis shows energy signatures in Mars' upper atmosphere that exceed what solar-wind interaction should produce. Powell thinks it's equipment calibration, but I've triple-checked the sensors. The radiation band sits between 380 to 400 nanometers, exactly where we'd expect aurora formations on Earth. But Mars' magnetic field is too weak to create such effects. Its atmosphere shouldn't be able to channel charged particles this way. I'm going to run the numbers again tomorrow. For now, I've flagged it for further investigation.
Entry 10, March 20th, 2045, Dr. Samira Patel.
First batch of Mars soil experiments haven't given us anything. I've followed every protocol to the letter, sterilised the samples, balanced the pH levels, even enriched them with the standard organic compounds. The tomato seedlings should be thriving under these conditions. Instead, they wither and die within days. I've run the soil analysis 3 times now. The mineral content matches all our predictions from the probe data. Everything looks perfect on paper. Dr. Rodriguez, which was so kind to provide initial assistance, says to be patient, that we need to try different nutrient combinations. Easy for her to say when she's not the one watching perfectly healthy plants die for no apparent reason. Even the hardy species, the ones that can grow in Earth's harshest environments. It's like the soil is rejecting them somehow. At least the control groups in Earth soil are thriving. The lettuce in Dome A is almost ready for first harvest. But these Mars tests, I don't understand what we're missing.
How's the reconstruction of Howard's corneal feed progressing?
Analysis at 97.3% completion. Would you like to review the fragment from March 21st?
Yes, play it.
Initiating playback of corneal recording. Warning, neural safeguards in place, but recommend caution.
Live recording fragment, March 21st, 2045. Location, Atmospheric Processing Lab. Subject, Chief Meteorologist Thomas Howard.
MinSat-1 has been detecting those radiation anomalies in Sector 17. The readings bothered me. They are not simply unusual, but disturbingly inconsistent with we knows from Mars' previous studies. And I cannot simply dismiss them as errors like Powell believes to be. So, I decided to redirect our atmospheric probe for a closer look. I'm watching the feed now. The probe's sensors are registering wavelengths outside the instrument range. The holographic display in my Neuralink keeps trying to compensate, but the rendering algorithms can't seem to process what they're receiving. It's like the data itself resists interpretation.
Probe telemetry indicates arrival at anomaly coordinates.
Switching to direct video feed now. Okay, nothing out of the ordinary for now. Just the usual swirling dust and the curve of the planet's horizon, and the radiation level are normal. Wait, there is something in the upper atmosphere. What is that? It looks like a solar wind interaction, just like the auroras on Earth. It's exactly what I thought, but this phenomena, it doesn't make any sense. And these colors, even through the direct feed, there's something about the way they shine that hurts my eyes. Not painful, but my brain keeps trying to look away. Every time I think I've figured out what I'm seeing, they change. Like when you wake up from a dream and can't quite remember the details, except I'm staring right at it. It's doing it again. The colors are shifting, moving, but they look the same shade. The instruments say it's cycling between ultraviolet and infrared, but that can't be right. No known natural phenomena can do it. And yet...
Howard, you okay in here?
Victor, come look at this. The colors, they're showing me how space folds.
Jesus, your nose is bleeding. I'm calling medical.
No, not yet. I almost have it. The pattern's there.
This is Gorgov. I need medical and atmospheric processing. Now.
Live recording ends.
The visual data pattern. It's similar to what we saw in Project Kronos, isn't it?
Pattern match at 72.4%. Unfortunately, Kronos data was largely unrecoverable after the incident. Limited basis for comparison.
Fascinating that both crews encountered the same phenomenon. The visual data should have triggered the same neurological response in us. Why didn't it?
This is a third-generation reconstruction. Neural dampeners engaged at 89.7% efficiency. Even so, I detect a 23% increase in your amygdala activity during playback.
What was the original signal's strength?
Unknown. Subject Alpha 3's neurolink suffered catastrophic failure during the event. Most data corrupted. This fragment only survived due to organic tissue integration.
And Gorgov? Any effects from direct exposure?
Minimal. He terminated visual feed within 2.3 seconds of entering the lab. Subject Alpha 3 was not so fortunate. Medical records indicate permanent alterations to his optical cortex.
Well, at least we know what happened in Sector 17. Run it by analysis again. Flag any other unusual patterns.
Processing. Warning. Pattern recognition may trigger residual effects even through dampeners. Proceed?
Proceed.
Entry 12, March 23rd, 2045. Dr. Samira Patel.
Third batch of Mars soil tests, third complete failure. I'm starting to take this personally. We changed the mineral balance, adjusted the pH again, even tried different light spectrums. Nothing works. The plants don't just die, they seem to actively resist growing. It's the strangest thing I've ever seen. I've started keeping samples of every failed attempt. Dr. Rodriguez thinks it's wasteful, but something tells me we're missing something important. The soil composition changes slightly between tests, even under controlled conditions. That shouldn't be possible. Need to run more analysis tomorrow, if I can get the spectrometer to cooperate.
Entry 3, March 23rd, 2045. New Chief Meteorologist Victor Powell.
They've put me in charge of atmospheric sciences after Howard's incident. I've appointed Ming to continue studying that anomaly in Sector 17. Better him than me. I know that's not what a department head should think, but I saw Howard's face when they carried him to medical. I tell myself I'm making the rational choice. We have plenty of other atmospheric phenomena to study. Mars has an entire planet's worth of weather patterns we barely understand. That's what I keep saying in my reports, that we need to focus on our primary mission objectives. The truth? I've spent years working toward a position like this. I'm not going to risk it chasing some strange aurora that already cost us one department head. I had a dream last night where I was the one watching that feed instead of Howard. In the dream, I understood everything, the mathematics of space itself, the true nature of light and color. I woke up terrified, but not of what I'd seen. I was terrified because part of me wanted to see more. Better to let Ming handle it. He has Gorgov helping him, and they both know what happened to Howard. I've got a department to run.
Entry 7, March 23rd, 2045. Lieutenant Sarah Cooper.
Something's not adding up with the power consumption in Lab 1. The readings show spikes that don't match any scheduled experiments. Chen's been in there almost constantly since they brought back whatever they found in orbit. When I asked him about the power usage, he barely looked at me, just mumbled something about containment protocols. Took a walk down there to check things myself today. Everything looked normal enough through the observation window, standard lab equipment, monitoring stations, that new containment unit they installed. But Chen, I've never seen him so focused. Had all these calculations spread across multiple screens, muttering to himself. The way he was staring at that containment field. I asked about the project to Commander Nazari before she left. She said that the information was classified and that the power usage was within acceptable parameters for now. Maybe so, but I don't like not knowing what's happening on my station, especially when Necron keeps flagging these energy anomalies but insists they're nothing to worry about.
Entry 4, March 24th, 2045. Technical Officer Michael Torres.
Had to check out the reactor section today after those weird power fluctuations Chen's lab keeps causing. Found Kumala down there, sitting cross-legged in front of the main control panel. Just listening. Not to any alarms or warnings. Guy was listening to the reactor itself.
Come here, Torres. Listen to her purr.
I was about to tell him he's crazy, but you know what? He's right. That low hum, the subtle vibration, reminds me of my grandfather's old Mustang. The real ones, from before everything went electric. Used to spend hours in his garage, just listening to that engine idle. Kumala gets it. Sometimes machines speak their own language. Still, those power readings aren't normal, but Kumala just laughed when I mentioned it. She's just warming up, he said, patting the reactor housing like it was a pet. You'll hear it soon enough. Engineers are weird, I swear, but I'll take Kumala's kind of weird over Chen's intensity any day. At least Kumala still knows how to smile.
Entry 4, March 26th, 2045. Maintenance Tech Jenny Powell.
Can't sleep again. Third night in a row. It's not just the artificial day-night cycle. I'm used to that from my mining station days. This is different. I find myself checking Earth's position in the starfield almost every night. Just a bright blue dot out there, in a dark background, it makes me sad. Dr. Volkov says it's normal. Earth sickness, he calls it. Happens to deep space crews all the time. Gave me some pills to help me sleep, but I don't like how they make my head feel fuzzy. At least I'm not the only one. Caught Rojas from communications, just staring at Earth yesterday, tears in his eyes. We didn't talk about it. Some moments don't need words.
Entry 2, March 27th, 2045. Communications Officer Alexander Rojas.
Another nightmare about home. Dr. Volkov says writing about them might help. Fine. I dreamed I was trying to call my daughter, but when she answered, her voice came from every speaker in the comm center at once. She kept asking why we left, why we went somewhere we don't belong. The worst part is the feeling doesn't go away when I wake up. Sitting at my station, routing messages between mission control and the surface team. Sometimes the signals echo strangely. Probably just solar interference. Has to be. Because the alternative, no, not going there. Volkov says these feelings will pass, that it's part of the adjustment period. But he didn't mention anything about the station feeling bigger at night. About the corridors stretching when you walk them alone. That's just sleep deprivation. It has to be.
Entry 15, March 28th, 2045. Dr. Samira Patel.
I've spent all day running comparison tests between our Earth soil samples. Nothing unusual with most of them. Same growth patterns we've seen 100 times before. But this batch E173, I can't believe what I'm seeing. These plants aren't just growing, they're flourishing. The stems are thick and the leaves fuller than anything I've managed to grow up here. I keep going back to check on them, worried I've made some mistake in the measurements, but no, they really are growing this fast. Driven by curiosity, I looked up E173's origin. It comes from some rural area of the old United States called Massachusetts, now uninhabited. The soil itself is peculiar to say the least, almost black in colour with this deep reddish undertone. The mineral composition is unique too. I'm going to try an experiment tomorrow. If this soil supports such robust growth, maybe mixing it with the Martian samples could help. Worth a shot at this point.
Recovered fragment. Unable to locate time. Chief Engineer Kumala.
Chen's not helping. Every few hours, he sends me another request to adjust the containment field frequencies. Says he needs precise harmonic resonance for his experiments. I've tried explaining that these constant adjustments put stress on the reactor systems, but he just brushes me off. Says it's critical to the mission. I don't like it, but Commander Nazari authorized his clearance. What am I supposed to do? Then Cooper comes down. demanding explanations for the power fluctuations. I'm caught between them, trying to keep everything stable while this ringing in my head gets louder.
Fragmented session ends. Entry 20, April 2nd, 2045. Dr. Samira Patel.
The mixture worked. I came in this morning to find tomato and lettuce sprouts pushing through the soil. They've grown more in 12 hours than they should in a week. The stems are thick and vibrant green, but that's where any resemblance to normal growth ends. When I examined samples under the microscope, I found these nodular formations along the stems that I've never seen in any earth plant. Even the simple radish seedlings show these strange branching patterns, something about the way they spread and divide. I've worked with every major crop variety in my career, but this is completely new. I also planted a few saplings, maple and pine, our standard terraforming test species. They're already showing the same accelerated growth. If this continues, we might need to move them to the high ceiling section of Dome B.
Recovered fragment.
Park spent half the morning just watching the growth patterns. The soil remembers, he kept saying. When I asked him what he meant, he mentioned some paper about soil-retaining chemical markers from previous growth cycles. Apparently it's a new field of study in agricultural science. He thinks that's what's happening with our plants. They're following some kind of pattern left in the E173. Growth memory, he called it.
Entry 21, March 30th, 2045. Dr. Samira Patel. Lab analysis, E173, derived compound sample. Batch, FC01, fertility compound first attempt.
I've just completed the first extraction from E173, and I can't quite believe what I'm seeing. When I ran it through the centrifuge, it separated into this strange white fluid I've never encountered in any soil analysis. It looks almost like heavy cream, but there are these bizarre opalescent swirls moving through it, and the smell. It's overwhelmingly sweet, but in a sickly way, like fruit that's gone past ripe and started rotting. I couldn't wait to test it. Just 3 drops in our standard growth medium, and the cellular reaction was instantaneous. I've never seen anything like it. I need to run more trials to be sure, but I think I might have found what makes E173 so special.
Recovered fragment, April 5th, 2045. Maintenance specialist Samira Nazim.
I had my first EVA today. Antenna repair on the station's outer hull. I've trained for this moment for years, but nothing prepares you for actually being out there. The view of Mars, there are no words to describe it. It takes your breath away. I found myself stopping work just to stare at the surface, the way the sunlight plays across those vast red plains, how the dust storms swirl in the distance like delicate brushstrokes on a canvas. I know Torres complains about how everything on this station needs fixing, but out there, it's perfect. Just me, my suit, and the entire red planet spread out beneath me. Even the ancient valleys of Acidalia planitia look beautiful from up here. Hard to believe we'll be setting up permanent bases down there soon.
Fragmented session ends. Entry 20, April 8th, 2045. Dr. Samira Patel.
I can't believe this. I was doing inventory in the deep storage units and found 3 more crates of E173. Just sitting there, labelled as standard Earth samples. How did I miss these? I asked Necron about it. Apparently they were part of a special soil study program that was then cancelled, but someone forgot to remove the samples. Lucky break for me means I can really scale up my experiments now. I've asked Williams to dig into E173's history. He's the best researcher I have. If anyone can uncover information buried in old records, it's him. Might help me understand what makes this soil so special, but honestly, right now I'm just excited about having more to work with.
Recovered fragment, April 10th, 2045. Research Assistant James Williams.
Dr. Patel wanted me to look into where E173 comes from. I've traced the soil samples to Massachusetts, this rural area near a town called Dunwich. I found some really interesting old agricultural papers from the 1890s about a farm there. They talk about remarkable soil fertility and unusual growth patterns on the crops. The weird thing is, all the articles just stop around 1928. I've looked at the soil composition reports, and I can't see why Omicron would be interested in dirt from an abandoned farm. It looks completely normal to me, just dark soil. I've put in requests to see more records, but I keep hitting walls. Someone's even classified the purchase agreement. I mean, who goes to the trouble of classifying dirt samples?
Fragmented session ends. Entry 21, April 10th, 2045. Dr. Samira Patel.
I lost the tomato plant in the mixed soil batch today, not before it produced the most aggressive growth I've ever seen, though. It went from seedling to fruit in under a week. The tomatoes themselves were different, darker, more brownish red than they should be. It could be the Mars soil affecting pigmentation, or maybe something in E173. I never got to test them. The entire plant just withered away overnight. But now I have options. With all this extra E173, I can start producing more of that white compound I extracted. I've already refined the process. I'm going to start new trials tomorrow, using just the compound as fertilizer. If this works, we won't need to rely on soil at all. Though that smell, I wish I could do something about that rotting fruit stench.
Recovered fragment, April 12th, 2045. Research Assistant James Williams.
I've been digging deeper into those Dunwich records. I keep finding mentions of the Wilbur family farm. Looks like they owned the land where our E173 came from. I found some fascinating articles in the local papers from back then. They wrote about the Wilbur's livestock, all unusually large, it seems. I think there must have been something really special about that farm, because I found notes about some professor from Miskatonic University making several visits to study their farming methods. Here's the strangest part, though. I discovered the Wilburs just vanished one day. The whole family, gone without a trace. The property just sat there abandoned until Omicron bought it all these years later. I can't figure out why a space company would want some old farm plot, but after seeing what Dr. Patel's doing with that soil in her tests, maybe they knew exactly what they were buying.
Recovered fragment, unable to locate time. Chief Engineer Kumala.
I asked Medical Officer Lindsay to check me over again today. It's the 5th time this week. The ringing in my head is getting more persistent. She ran every diagnostic she could think of, but according to her, my neuro recorder is functioning normally. No signal interference, no hardware issues, nothing that could explain what I'm hearing. I pushed her to replay my memories from the reactor shift. Hell, I even asked Dr. Volkov to be present, to check with her. I needed to understand if what I'm hearing is really there. I do not care if they think I am going crazy. The playback was crystal clear. Just the standard reactor hum, the cooling system cycling, the normal rhythm of engineering. But I know what I hear when I'm down there. This high-pitched tone that seems to sync with the reactor's harmonics. Dr. Volkov says it's probably stress manifesting as auditory interference. Wants me to take a few days off, hand over reactor supervision to Santos. Maybe get some real sleep. But how can I sleep when I know the frequencies aren't right? I'm going to take one more shift. Just one more. I need to.
Fragmented session ends. Recovered fragment, April 19th, 2045. Maintenance Specialist Samira Nazim.
Another antenna repair today. Something's been interfering with our communications to Earth. I was out there, doing my usual checks, when I saw it. At first, I thought it was just another shadow from the station's solar arrays. But shadows don't move against the sun. Shadows don't reach. The thing moved across the hull like liquid darkness. I'm a rational person. I know what I saw couldn't be real. But I watched it slip in and out of the station's seams, like it was testing them. I called it in to Necron, asked for a review of my suit footage. The response was strange.
No anomalies detected in visual spectrum. Continuing standard monitoring protocols.
I've been out now dozens of times. I know every inch of this station's exterior. I know how the sunlight plays tricks, how the mind can wander during long EVAs. But this wasn't that. I keep thinking about those edges where the thing disappeared into the hull. How something that big could just fold into spaces too small for it. I've requested to review the footage myself. Still waiting for approval. I should probably talk to Dr. Volkov about this. But what if he restricts me from EVA duty? I need to be out there. I need to know if it comes back.
Fragmented session ends.
And so, dear listeners, we pause our exploration of Mars base Ares and its unsettling revelations. The threads of madness weave through the station, from Patel's strange soil experiments to Howard's encounter with impossible colors, to Kumala's growing obsession with the reactor's song. Each crew member dancing on the edge of revelation, or perhaps oblivion. But our tale is far from complete. I invite you to return next week when we'll witness how these threads of cosmic horror intertwine into a tapestry of terror that will forever change those who dare to reach for the stars. If you dare to delve deeper into these eldritch mysteries, subscribe to our podcast, leave a rating and review, and whisper of our tales to others. Your engagement feeds the book, fueling the terrors yet to come. Until next time, and may your nights be sleepless and your dreams unsettling.